What is that? What we have here is a 2025 Nissan Sentra with the SR upgrade. Some of the key competitors are the Honda Civic as well as the Mazda 3, and those are very strong competition with great reliability, fun to drive features. What does the Nissan Sentra SR have over of some of the competition? We're going to do a walk down. I'm going to show you some of the features inside, outside, all the way around. Take this bad boy for a run, tell you what everything I love about it, and would I in fact buy this over some of its strong competition like the Honda Civic or the Mazda 3. Let's get into it now. Nissan's had some troubles with reliability lately with some of their variable compression engines, which this does not have. It's also had some durability problems with their CVT transmissions. But is it all in fact that bad? I want to talk about that. This Nissan SR, you get great badges. SR means you've got the Sport Rally. So you get a lot of great features you don't get in the base trim, but for a small amount of money, you can get this great look. Now, as you back up and you look at this beautiful car, I personally think it's an attractive looking rig. I mean, look, you've got the white finish up top, contrasted nicely with this black roof right here, and I truly do believe that gives it a nice enhanced look. You get the beautiful alloy wheels, laser cut style, of course. The looks are honestly in the eye of the beholder, but actually, in my own personal opinion, I think this is one of the best looking cars in its segment. Okay, first of all, we have LED headlights. It's a beautiful car. Lots of detailing like this. You'll notice you get these great little features like this. Give it a sporting look and a sporting attitude. They have this big beautiful grille, and of course a lot of manufacturers these days are doing that, but you know what, it feels fairly sturdy. And a lot of these cars these days, you feel like they're snap together, but this one actually feels fairly well bolted together. It doesn't feel as cheap as some of the cars out there in the market today. High gloss finishing on the mirror. Of course, you would get all kinds of sensors because this car has a lot of great driver assistance programs. You get sensors here, you get LEDs right there, and overall it's a beautiful look. You look at the stance of the new SR Sentra and it is a beautiful little car. When I took this car out, there was a previous generation Honda Accord parked right in front of it, and I couldn't tell the difference in terms of size. It's qualified and classified as a compact car, but at the end of the day, it feels very much almost like some of the mid-size cars of yesteryear. At the tail finish here, of course, LEDs back here. I love LEDs on taillights. They're especially sharp, bright, and they've always looked good. And that's one feature of a lot of modern day cars I really love. But we get a little wing on here as well. Gives you a little touch of that sportiness. And just get that look from the back. It's absolutely a sporty little car. Now, as we circle down here, you'll notice more little accents and details, just giving that sporting look. You get a little fake air wind diffuser down here. Doesn't really do a whole lot. On top of you actually get a quality stainless tip right here on exhaust. That's one thing that's missing on a lot of cars these days. A lot of the lower end vehicles, you're going to find either nothing, it'll be blanked off, or in fact, it'll just be a little pea shooter exhaust, but they actually put a nice little chrome tip on there. Lots of sensors back here, and that's some of the value add with this car. And that's what I'm finding with this Sentra SR. It's chock full of those driver assistance programs, and we're going to walk through the interior of this and explain some of those, because not all of these cars in this segment will offer the same amount of amenities, and that's a feature I really love about this car. Now, the juiciest part before we go for a drive and show you the interior of the car is I want to show you what's underneath the hood, because let's be honest, this is the heart of the beast, and any car is nothing without its engine. That's why a lot of these EVs really just lack the soul. So what we have here is a straight 4-cylinder engine, naturally aspirated, 2-liter by displacement, and it's coupled up to the CVT transmission, Jatco style. Now, many people would say the Jatco transmission has had some durability issues, and I want to talk about the drive here as we go. But this 2-liter engine produces about 149 horsepower and 146 pound-feet of torque. So there's absolutely nothing too earth-shattering in terms of overall performance. Barely over 150 horsepower, 0 to 60 down around that 8.5 to 9 seconds, meaning it's very lethargic on a good day. A lot of that has to do with the transmission. A lot of it has to do with the fact that it's only 150 horsepower. But there is a beauty to this, because in a lot of ways, for a person that just needs a vehicle that looks the part, has all of the safety amenities, it actually does great with a 33 to 35 mile per gallon fuel range. I've been driving this car all week, and I've found it to be absolutely exceptional in the fuel economy department. It has a small tank, but it doesn't use a lot of gas. But also maintenance is wonderful here. Easy access, your fuses. Battery is easy to get at. You look at all the filters. I always look at components. If I can get access to things, it means it's going to be easy to service. And that, of course, means more durability in the long run, because you're more inclined to do some of the servicing, in many cases, yourself. Alternator, easy access. Look, you have all of these components up here. very easy to get to. You know, even your O2 sensor, very easy. That's a common failure in a lot of cars, but as long as it's easy to access, it's very, very good. See, a lot of the parts under here are not buried under that cheap plastic cosmetic that they put over top. It's all just there in plain sight, and that just makes it easy to maintain. And that's a win from a car that is basically a daily driver, something that a lot of people are looking for in this segment. Now, the beauty is you have this key fob here. You can do a remote start. That works off the key fob. I've tried it. It works wonderfully. Lock, unlock, pretty standard. And of course, we also have press and hold, and now you can get into the trunk. So this makes it very, very practical. Of course, most cars are using these types of features these days, but it's no different here. Down in here, we have lots of space down here. The beauty is you've got the 40-60 split. That's very, very practical. Down under here, something that is missed in a lot of cars, small jack, and guess what? A donut. Sure, it's not a major, it's not a full size, but it sure beats what a lot of manufacturers are doing these days by putting in just an air compressor kit and hope that you can get home. This actually does help you get to the next tire shop, or in fact, just for you to get home in one piece. Okay, let's take a look inside, shall we? Other than the fact that you've got this nice remote touch here, you can bypass, you've got your mechanical access right there, but it's very, very easy. When using this touchscreen, it works fairly well this way. It's very quick and intuitive. One thing that I noticed when trying to link up my Apple CarPlay, and I'm trying to link up as well, play music with my phone, it sort of locks up. We've had many instances where it doesn't seem to like to do both. It all of a sudden won't link up one or won't link up the other, and it creates a bit of a conflict. So Bluetooth and Apple CarPlay, and when you get too much going on, I've had actual issues here with it starts to conflict. But ultimately, you get all kinds of great features. You've got the 3D camera, you've got the backup, the front camera as well. Of course, you do get the Sirius FM radio. It's very, very quick. You can touch screen everything. Look at this. It's very, very nice. So I like the way it functions. It's very practical and very usable. Down here, everything's pretty good. The wipers work fairly well. Cruise control works fairly well as well. When you look, it has all of the safety features: forward collision, the blind spot monitoring, lane assist, departure. So you have all of those systems, and they illuminate as you go. As you start crossing lanes, you get lane departure, range assessment in terms of countdown how much fuel you have left. And of course, it's just an overall nicely packaged piece. Really not too much to write home about. It's functional. It works. Disregard some of that mess down there. I've been cruising around all weekend. I'm trying to stay hydrated in this hot Florida sun. Of course, down here we have beautiful contrast stitching. I love this. See, SR gives you another level of this fun feel. Of course, you get the brushed aluminum here. You have this nice, beautiful little carbon fiber accents right here. And since we're talking about carbon fiber, we also have carbon fiber right here. You'll see this nice carbon fiber touch around the surround of the pod. You also have this nice little carbon fiber detailing here around your cup holders. And of course, you get the piano finishing here, more stitching around there, and more detailing all over. You'll notice the general theme is high quality stitching, or at least it gives you that look. The material isn't necessarily the best. I mean, look at the bolsters, they're a little bit flimsy, but you know what? At the end of the day, it looks good. It looks like leather interior, even though it's not. It does give you a whole host of different good looking style updates to make sure that the SR is worth the upgrade. Flat bottom steering wheel with, again, more of those orange stitching. I love that. Of course, you get that nice little touchscreen in the center. It works quite well. And here's your gear lever, of course, to the CVT transmission. You'll notice reverse, neutral, drive, and low. On top of it, you get a lot of these beautiful plugins. You get a DC port. Of course, you get all kinds of different USB ports there. And that right there, my friends, is the auto shutoff, which so many people dislike. So you can access it right there. Some more little interesting updates in here, of course, I want to talk about. You'll notice the switches here, of course, the switch gear for the power windows. Doesn't look to inspire a lot of confidence. It works. It's simple. And a lot of people like the buttons and knobs, as do I. It looks like even just that little bit of ink that they saved. Why did they save that ink? Why didn't they just finish it with some sticker like this, or sticker, or some kind of ink to indicate the window? Of course, it's simple when you're operating it. Makes sense. But why don't you just do that just so it gives it that look? Of course, over here, mirrors. You've got your power mirror controls. Down here, you have access for rear trunk. Of course, your fuel filler. And of course, other controls right here. Cruise control as such. Of course, down here, you got a host of controls. And over here, resume, cruise control, resume, set, and the likes. Here's your chit chat. If you want your chit chat modes right there, you should never be using your phone while you're driving. So there you have access. Down here, I love the looks of these. Let's be honest. This has a very much a feel of some premium exotic cars. I love the feel of this. It almost feels Ferrari-ish, if I can say that. It's very smooth. It's very tactile. It's very nice. You've got these little knurled finishes right there. Beautiful. Airbags, of course, you got your flashers right here. I mean, it is a Nissan. You never know. Your stereos, your heating controls, everything is right here at a fingertip. Even Ferrari has given up their hard button, but start, stop right here. It's a real deal. That's right. I love it. A couple of cup holders here, a little junk. I found myself all week throwing like little wrappers and things. A great place to sort of collect. Now, what we don't have here is a wireless charging system, which that is sorely missed. Honestly, could use that. But the beauty is you can lay your phone this way, you can lay it that way. Big bin down there, so lots of space there. Great looking seats. The interior looks very, very nice all the way around. Look at the detailing of that stitching all the way down there. And again, more high quality vent system. I would say overall the interior of this car looks actually better and nicer than most of its competition. Now, this is probably almost on par, I'd say, with Mazda, where Honda follows up number 3 in my own personal opinion for interior fit and finish. Okay, let's slide on in here. Now, first of all, I'm going to say for a compact car, there is a ton of room in here. Look at the knee space right here with my rear end back here all the way and the driver in a position where kind of a mid-sized driver, I've got myself probably 5 inches of knee space here. I've got adequate room on the head, not a lot, but there's a couple of inches space on the roof, and it actually feels very, very comfortable. Of course, you get headrests across all 3 seats because it's 2 plus 3 in the back. So I wouldn't really torture a third person back here, but I would in fact put, say, 2 full-size adults in here. There's enough room for that. More carbon fiber on here, and of course, more brushed aluminum. A lot of that stitching. The SR package, in my own personal opinion, really is worth it. It's really stepping up, you know, those little details. Again, it's not a Ferrari. You're not speccing this car, customizing it to a way that you might as a McLaren owner either, but it does offer a lot of the features. It makes it feel just a little bit more dressed up and a little less drab. Zip out, easy to clean your seats as well. Quite honestly, back seat space with lights, holy pooper handles here. What's not to love, man? Like, honestly, let's be honest. Like, it's cheap and dirty, but you get 30, 35 miles to a gallon. Guess what? You can drive hundreds of thousands of miles. Well, we hope that the CVT holds up. They say the revisions have actually helped. And so that's the other piece I want to talk about is the continuously variable transmission. I speak so much of it, you know, over an exotic car play place where I'm not the biggest fan because they're not as reliable. When they break, you're talking $6,000 or $7,000, and on top of it, they're not that inspiring to drive. We are going to go for a drive here in a second, and I'm going to explain how this car drives and my overall driving impression. But here's a quirk. Look at this. I mean, look at the movement in that center section as I wobble this. There's a little bit of flakiness going on there. Now, I guess if you pull enough weight on any car, it's going to break. I mean, that's the point. Everything these days is built of plastic. So there's a little bit of cheapness underneath here. But overall, I would say the car feels very well sorted, quite solid all the way around, and not a lot to squawk about. Even this is quite sturdy. There's a little bit of play in there, but again, if you tug on it hard enough, anything's gonna break. So other than that, it's a nice look. I've been driving this now for over a week, and I'm getting very comfortable with it, but it's the driving experience. It's not just, guess what? I have a sunroof. Look at that. I have a beautiful little sunroof up top. It takes more than having a sunroof to have a good driving experience. Let's go. As we set off, I want to talk about the fact that I'm not the biggest fan of CVT transmissions. They tend to whine, they tend to buck sometimes, and this one has not disappointed. That's exactly what it does. I find if you're trying to all of a sudden dip into the throttle, you're making a quick accelerative change, stop and go traffic, it starts to jump and lurch. And a lot of people complain about that type of behavior. Now, Hondas, the Civics with the CVTs aren't that much better. They're kind of the same way. But guess what? The Mazda 3 has a torque converter automatic transmission. That's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 automatic gears, or you can get a base trim front wheel drive in the Mazda that actually gets an option or a downgrade, depends how you look at it, 6-speed manual gearbox. So the Mazda has the better transmission, bar none. Better than the Honda, certainly better than the Nissan. That being said, the Mazda is a little bit more costly. You know, Mazda is definitely coming up in terms of overall reliability, but it seems that Nissan is going to live and die with this CVT transmission. Now, does it work? Yeah, I've been driving around all week. It's fine. It works good. It sets off. It does its magic. But honestly, it's not the most inspiring. It gets a little whiny, especially at highway speeds. When you're driving at slower speeds in the neighborhoods and you're really not much of a rush, it works fine. You know, if you're driving around, like dropping off the kidlings, heading to work, and the city commutes, it's fine. It doesn't really have any major drawbacks other than the fact that it kind of jumps and lurches from time to time. Put a little gas into it, there's really no power there. See, the thing is, it's not made for performance. And every manufacturer has those performance cars and then those pedestrian cars. This is what I call pedestrian. This is what people call and refer to as traffic. Why? Because it's a garden variety car. It's not that expensive. It's good on fuel. It's relatively cheap to maintain. Honda's CVTs have traditionally been better. Toyotas are the best. eCVT, so their eCVT system actually has a stronger first gear takeoff, and it's a much more durable system. So if you're comparing this to anything like a Corolla, but a Corolla is pretty bland, and quite honestly, if you're picking and choosing, it's really almost the same. Feels a lot like the Toyota Corolla. The difference is the Corolla has a little bit better transmission. Power performance isn't that much different. Driving this car really is not that inspiring from a performance perspective. Listen, it just sort of winds up and whines and growls, and then it just lets up. But I will say, the handling, the car feels tight. There's no clunking and banging. It's a fairly sturdy feeling car. And actually, if I go a step further, I would probably go as far and say it's probably, well put together than even the Honda. The Honda has a bit more of a tinny feel. What we have here with Nissan is a car that actually doesn't feel as tinny. It doesn't feel as hollow. I actually like this car. It's a charming little redeeming car. It's a price point, good on fuel. When you're just easy on, you're not really going hard. The only time the CVT becomes a problem is, again, when you're gunning it and you're trying to make quick lane changes, or you're trying to do that quick, you're finding that that space in traffic, and all of a sudden you get over there and you want to gun it. Now it does this whine and howl, and it's like, see, it kind of has a wind up almost feel. All of the technology works nice in here. It's safety. It has a lot of features that some of its rivals just doesn't. And so it's such an easy car to live with. And as I'm listening, it's very quiet. So you don't get a lot of road noise. Some would argue they're not. Everything's snapped together. But I think it's a lot of it in engineering, the design. They're just a solid car. Now, the question really that you're probably all asking me with all of the cars in the segment, the Toyota Corolla, the Mazda 3, the Civic, which of these cars would I pick? Well, this one has some factors. If you like the looks, this is probably the best looking car of the bunch. I'm not the biggest fan of the Mazda hatchback, the Mazda 3 hatchback, but it has the best gearbox. And you can also get the GT form. You can get a turbo version with 240 horsepower in the Mazda. So if it's just from the driver's seat, I would say the Mazda is the car to have. The Civic, it's front-wheel drive only and exclusively. The Civic would probably be a really close second to the Mazda, because we've had Hondas, we like them, they're reliable. It's a great car. You can't fault a Honda for too much. That being said, they've had problems with their 1.5s. In terms of styling, this is the car to have. I think, in my own personal opinion, if you want to look the part, you want to have some of these nice features, little carbon bits, you want to have the body work that looks to me like more substantial, this is the car to have. This is a nicer looking car than all of its competition, because if you look at the sedan version of this versus the sedan version of the Mazda, this is a better looking car. This is also better, in my own personal opinion, than the Honda Civics. They have a little bit of a cheese look to them. From the cosmetic perspective, interior, exterior, this car wins. From the overall driving dynamic, but you sort of give up a little bit on the looks, go with the Mazda. You go with what you think you trust, the name and the branding, and you're all about the branding, and you get a good, fairly reliable car, you buy the Honda. Toyota is really reserved for people that really don't care about driving. It's a quality car, it's reliable, it's gonna last hundreds of thousands of miles, but it's as bland as vanilla yogurt. And so at the end of the day, would I buy this? Possibly. I like the looks, I like the features, it's more well decked out, but honestly, if we're push come to shove, I'm probably buying the Mazda before the Nissan.